Let's determine the following limits from the graph of y equals f of x. So in question 9, we have to find the limit of f of x when x approaches infinity. So it's basically when we look at the graph of f of x, so when x approaches infinity, it looks like the function approaches negative 2. So we say that the answer for this limit is negative 2. Now let's do question 10. Here we find the limit of f of x when x approaches negative infinity. So it's basically in the graph, this is when approaches negative infinity. So it seems like the graph of f of x approaches positive infinity when x approaches negative infinity. So therefore we say that this limit equals, it is positive infinity. Now let's evaluate the limit in question 11. So here we should find the limit of f of x when x approaches negative 2 plus, which is basically x approaches negative 2 from the right. So this is when x approaches negative 2 from the right. So we see that f of x approaches negative infinity. So we see that this limit equals negative infinity. Now let's do question 12. Here we find the limit of f of x when x approaches negative 2 minus, which is when x approaches negative 2 from the left. So this is when x approaches negative 2 from the left. So it looks like f of x is approaching positive infinity. So the value of this limit is positive infinity. Now we answered this question 13. Here we find the limit of f of x when x approaches negative 2. So for this we need the left limit and the right limit when x approaches negative 2, which we have already determined from question 11 and question 12. The right side limit is negative infinity and the left side limit when x approaches negative 2 is positive infinity. Since these two limits are not the same, we see that the limit when x approaches negative 2 of f of x equals does not exist. Now let's answer question 14. Here we determine the limit of f of x when x approaches 2 plus, that is when x approaches 2 from the right side. So this is when x approaches 2 from the right side. So f of x approaches infinity here. So we say that this limit equals infinity. And now in question 15, we find the left side limit of f of x when x approaches 2. So it is from this direction, x approaches 2 from the left. So x, that is f of x approaches 0. So the value of this limit equals 0. Now let's answer question 16. Here we determine the limit f of x when x approaches 2. For this, we consider the answer in question 14 and question 15, which are basically the left and the right side limit. So when we compare the result of these two limits, that is the left side limit and right side limit, 0 does not equals infinities. That is, these two values are not the same. So therefore, we say that this limit does not exist.